What's up, guys? This is Chris from DraftDashboard.com. Here are my DFS picks for NFL Week 2 Sleeper Picks. These picks apply for DraftKings and FanDuel. Before I get started, please drop a like on this video and hit that red subscribe button and hit that bell icon so you don't miss our new videos. In this video, I'm going to give you some of my top DFS Sleeper Picks, super low priced and low ownership players that could crush value this week and give your lineup an advantage over the field. These are risky plays, meant for large tournaments only. Don't go all in on any of these guys. They are high risk, high reward picks. And if you stick around to the very end of this video, we'll use the Draft Dashboard tools to make a DFS lineup using the picks we just made. Okay guys, NFL Week 2, let's take a look at the quarterback position. My sleeper pick here at the quarterback position in Week 2 is Matthew Stafford from the Detroit Lions playing the Green Bay Packers, who have the 5th worst defense overall, and they give up the 9th most fantasy points to opposing quarterbacks. Matthew Stafford, he scored 17.2 fantasy points in Week 1. He had 5 rush attempts, and he's only going to be about 1% owned. He's projected at 17.2 fantasy points here in Week 2. He's $6,200 DraftKings salary and $1,000 more on FanDuel. Vegas thinks there's going to be 50 points scored in this game, so a high-scoring game, and they have the Detroit Lions trailing by 6. So it should be a passing game script here for Matthew Stafford. I know a couple of his wide receivers are injured, but he's still got plenty of talent to throw the ball to. And this guy can get hot and throw a bunch of touchdowns. Low ownership, you're saving some salary here at the quarterback position. It's a nice matchup here, high scoring game. So I like Matthew Stafford here versus the Green Bay Packers. Okay, let's take a look at the running back position. I'm going to give you a couple of running back plays that I think could do well here in Week 2 that have low ownership. So I like Devin Singletary from the Buffalo Bills playing the Miami Dolphins, who have a good defense overall, and they're middle of the pack defending opposing running backs. Devin Singletary, he scored 10.3 fantasy points in Week 1 off of 9 rush attempts and 7 pass targets. So I like that he's involved in the passing game. He's only going to be around 1% owned. He was on the field for 59% of the snaps and touched the ball 31% of the time. He's projected at 12.8 fantasy points here in Week 2, and he's $5,200 DraftKings salary and $800 more on FanDuel. Vegas thinks there's going to be 42 points scored in this game. They have the Buffalo Bills favored by 5.5. I think that they steamroll the Miami Dolphins. I think Devin Singletary gets plenty of work here. So I like Devin Singletary here versus the Miami Dolphins. So the other running back that I like here, or my other sleeper pick at the running back position, is David Montgomery from the Chicago Bears playing the New York Giants, who have the 10th worst defense overall. And although they were pretty good against opposing running backs, Dave Montgomery, he scored 8.4 fantasy points in Week 1 off of 13 rush attempts and 3 pass targets. He's only going to be about 2% owned, and he was on the field for 45% of the snaps and touched the ball 55% of that time. He's projected at 12 fantasy points here in Week 2. He's $5,600 DraftKings salary and the same price on FanDuel. So I like that FanDuel price. So I like David Montgomery here versus the New York Giants. Okay, let's take a look at the wide receiver position. My sleeper pick at the wide receiver position is Danny Amendola from the Detroit Lions playing the Green Bay Packers, who have the 5th worst defense overall, and they give up the 4th most fantasy points to opposing wide receivers. Danny Amendola scored 13.1 fantasy points in Week 1 off of 7 pass targets. He's only going to be about 1% owned here. And remember, guys, there's a bunch of injuries at the other wide receivers, so he should continue to get plenty of work here in week 2. He was on the field for 55% of the snaps, touched the ball 16% of that time. He's projected at 10 fantasy points here in week 2. He's 4,800 DraftKings salary and 400 more on FanDuel. And Vegas thinks there's going to be 50 points scored in this game, with the Detroit Lions trailing by 6. So a passing game script here for Danny Amendola. So I like Danny Amendola here versus the Green Bay Packers. Real quick, guys, I got great news. For a limited time, we're offering a full 30-day trial to Draft Dashboard. You can try all the tools for NFL. MLB is still going. NBA is right around the corner. This is a great time to get in and try everything for 1 month. The tools are all about saving research time. You can see the last 3 games, the fantasy points per game, the targets they got per game, so you can see how involved they are in the offense, the rushes they got per game. Seeing all this stuff on one screen helps you save time and make better picks. Oh, and if you're tired of doing research every day, we just added a cheat sheet that shows hand-picked plays for the slate. No confusing stat lines, no headaches, just a simple cheat sheet that shows the absolute best players for your lineups. So the other wide receiver that I like here in week 2, he's a little bit higher owned here, but still low ownership. It's the other healthy wide receiver from the Detroit Lions, Marvin Jones Jr., playing the Green Bay Packers, who have the 5th worst defense overall, and they give up the 4th most fantasy points to opposing wide receivers. Marvin Jones Jr. scored 9.5 fantasy points in week 1 off of 8 pass targets. He's only going to be about 4% owned, and he was on the field for 91% of the snaps. He touched the ball 11% of that time. He's projected at 13.6 fantasy points here in week 2, and he's 5,700 DraftKings salary and 700 more on FanDuel. So look, guys, the way I'm going to play it this week, I like stacking Matthew Stafford with Danny Amendola and Marvin Jones Jr., because if Matthew Stafford goes off, throws for 4 touchdowns, they're going to beat Amendola and Marvin Jones Jr. They don't have many other healthy, quality wide receivers available right now. So I think it's an easy stack with a high-scoring game, a game that they should be trailing, so they're going to be forced to pass the ball. Makes a lot of sense to me here in week 2. Plus, you're getting all these guys at low ownership. So I like Marvin Jones Jr. here versus the Green Bay Packers. Okay, moving on to the tight end position. I'm going to give you a couple tight ends here. One of my sleeper picks here at the tight end position is Noah Fant from the Denver Broncos playing the Pittsburgh Steelers, who have a good defense overall, and they're middle of the pack defending opposing tight ends. Noah Fant, he scored 19.1 fantasy points in week 1 off of 6 pass targets, and he's only going to be about 2% owned here. He was on the field for 73% of the snaps, touched the ball 14% of that time. He's projected at 10 fantasy points here in week 2, and he's 4,400 DraftKings salary and 900 more on FanDuel. Vegas thinks there's going to be 40.5 points scored in this game, with the Denver Broncos trailing by 7. So you got a nice passing game script here. He had a big week 1. Let's see if he can do it again in week 2. So I like Noah Fant here versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. Okay, my next sleeper pick at the tight end position, he did not have a good week 1, but I think he bounces back here in week 2. I like Evan Ingram from the New York Giants playing the Chicago Bears, who have a middle-of-the-pack defense overall, and they give up the 6th most fantasy points to opposing tight ends. Evan Ingram, he only scored 2.9 fantasy points in week 1, but he did get 7 pass targets. Now, he's only going to be about 1% owned here, and he was on the field for 94% of the snaps. Touched the ball 11% of that time. So with that target count, this guy's bound to catch a few balls, get in the end zone. You're getting him at super low ownership. This guy can produce for you. He's projected at 10.7 fantasy points here in week 1. He's 5,300 DraftKings salary and 700 more on FanDuel. Vegas thinks there's going to be 42 points scored in this game, and they have the Giants trailing by 5.5. So you got a passing game script here, a nice matchup. He's getting plenty of targets. So I like Evan Ingram here versus the Chicago Bears. If you want to try all these daily fantasy tools for yourself, click the link in the description below this video or just go to draftdashboard.com. You can use our DFS lineup optimizer to build quality lineups using our picks and your own custom player pool. Click the link in the description below this video and try all these daily fantasy tools right now. Thanks so much for watching. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel and hit that bell icon so you can get instant updates whenever we post a new video. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed this video, please smiggity smash that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Oh, and please comment below with your favorite player for this NFL slate. I love to hear what you guys have to think. Thanks again, and good luck.